Welcome to High Infidelity, the best cheating videos on YouTube. If you enjoy this content, remember to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let's get into the video.
A mutual friend propositioned my newlywed wife for an affair. What's the best way to respond? So, my wife is a 10 out of 10. But she is also a great lady who is sensitive, hilarious, kind, loyal, and with a sad heart. She is now much more careful while speaking with strangers, since some of her nice attributes are sometimes misinterpreted as flirting or showing interest. She is her normal nice self with old friends since they know her, but one event has forced her to withdraw from openly socializing with friends as well. So we just married but on Sunday night, he cornered my wife for 5 minutes and delivered his love speech about how he had to have her and now he can't sleep knowing she's married to me, about how true love knows no bounds or rules, about how love can't be constrained and should be free, and so on and so forth. She quickly came over to tell me, but we didn't create a fuss since there were other friends around. Now she is furious and wants to expose him to all of our friends since he may have done the same thing to others in the past or would do so in the future. I believe that we should discontinue communication with him but not go any farther. What is the best course of action? Update. So I received a lot of solid advice, as well as some well-deserved criticism for my actions. It was not appropriate for me to dismiss it as casually as I pretended to. Believe me, I wanted to attack him, but it would have simply exacerbated the situation. But the majority of posters were correct in saying that I should. A mutual friend propositioned my newlywed wife for an affair. What's the best way to respond? So my wife is a 10 out of 10. But she is also a great lady who is sensitive, hilarious, kind, loyal, and with a sad heart. She is now much more careful while speaking with strangers since some of her nice attributes are sometimes misinterpreted as flirting or showing interest. She is her normal nice self with old friends since they know her, but one event has forced her to withdraw from openly socializing with friends as well. So we just married, and on Sunday night, we held a modest dinner for a few of our close friends. Now, one of those close pals has had a long-standing infatuation on my wife. It wasn't anything major, but she knew and informed me right away, and she subsequently stopped any needless contact with him. That was unfortunate for her since his wife is a dear friend of mine, and because of his evident attraction, they couldn't meet as often. We thought he'd get over it. Have totally backed her urge to go nuclear on him, and I appreciate your candor. So I walked up to her and apologized for not being more supportive, and I'm now 100% behind her, even if it means kicking his. She smiled and said she had a plan of action. She was going to go to his wife first and then warn all the ladies in our friends group since she believed it would be irresponsible for her to overlook his conduct in case he already tried with anybody else. So she contacted his wife today at lunch and informed her. His wife was in tears, so I stood back to allow her space to cry. I went out and returned when my wife texted me that she had left. She informed me that his wife admitted to her that it had occurred previously while they lived someplace else. She seemed almost resigned to the reality since she wasn't furious, but rather sad, and when my wife informed her that she would be informing other ladies about his conduct, she didn't object. My wife has invited everyone to lunch on Saturday, which is when she will inform them. She also feels awful for the wife, but believes it is her moral obligation to tell everyone. I completely agree with you. That concludes the update. And since my wife is so wonderful, I'm going to treat her to some handmade pizza tonight. I can cook pizza, believe it or not. Thank you for your suggestions, gentlemen. Story 2. My story of my cheating ex-wife. Greetings. I've been lurking for a long time, but decided to share my tale of how my ex-wife cheated on me. Be aware that this is nearly a book. I dated this girl for about 6 years, starting when we were both 18 years old. I advanced from a minimum wage pizza delivery job to a parts counter at a dealership, where I earn well over $50,000 a year. I purchased my first home while we were still dating. I paid for the wedding out of my own cash and spent 2 years buying and flipping automobiles to make ends meet. She continued to ignore herself more and more each day. We married in November of 2017 and everything went well, almost like a dream. However, it only lasted 2 weeks. That's when she began to change for the better. She abruptly said that she desired to be able to screw about with other ladies, that she desired and so on. I did my best to accommodate her demands, but her betrayal caught up with her first. When I caught her the first time, she was almost proud to tell me that she was a guy from West Virginia, in order to get herself aroused so that we could have better. I lost it, shouted and cursed at her, wondering how she could do this to me. Mind you, I'm barely a month into my marriage. We went to counseling and therapy, and the therapist told me I needed to pay more attention to her, which is difficult when you're working 60+ hours a week since she doesn't want to work. After months of attempting to regain my faith in her, I persuaded her to take the vacation to Florida she had been hounding me about for weeks. She insisted on traveling to her grandmother's house alone for a week. I had a lot of red flags at this time, but I shoved them down out of sight with the mind process of I'm not going to be able to trust her again until I give her room to prove me that I can. This will turn out to be a terrible error. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible so it doesn't turn into a book. Anyway, she returns from Florida, and we plan our honeymoon to Hawaii. She's gotten so enamored with her phone since she returned from Florida that I'm becoming frightened all over again. She's always smiling and chuckling on her phone, and she carries it everywhere, puts it face down, and so on. We haven't had in over 3 months at this point. April has arrived. We go on our honeymoon, which consists mostly of her lying in her condo room for a week on her phone while I drive around Maui in a rental Mustang GT convertible. I had a great time, but there was no. Let us fast forward to May 18, 2018. I'm lying in bed with her reading a book when I move and see the purple devil emoji on her phone's chat screen. Something is wrong since you only use the emoji once. I lie back down and attempt to brush it off, trusting her, but I have to know in about 6 seconds. What was that talk about, honey? I ask. I take her phone and return to the other conversation when she shows me a new screen. My whole body was melting out via my toes, I noticed. She was video chatting and talking about some of the kinkiest I'd ever seen with this dude. She spoke down to him, telling him I was emotionally abusive, that she was ready to leave me, and that she missed the time she spent with him in Florida. I was shattered, heartbroken, and ruined. She shook her head, turned over, and fell asleep. She awoke the following morning and went out with pals for a bit. I was in the worst mental state I could be in, and I couldn't handle it any longer. I shouldn't have been there by myself. I began emailing my friends and closest family members that I loved and trusted, telling them how much they meant to me and how much I cherished their love and companionship. One of my closest friends, luckily, understood the warning signals and contacted me repeatedly until I responded. Don't do anything dumb. I'm on my way to your place and you better be okay when I get there, he said. That day, that buddy saved my life by seeing the indications and understanding why I was saying goodbye. He left his $80,000 a year job in Atlanta rush hour traffic to travel an hour to my place to make sure I was okay. I honestly couldn't have asked for a greater buddy. I gave him all of my firearms that day and told him to keep them until I was no longer a danger to myself. Again, fast forward. It's June 2018, and I'm back in counseling and therapy with my ex-wife, and nothing seems to be improving my feelings about the issue. Every day, I go to work, return home, clean, and go to bed. After speaking with many trustworthy family members and expressing my emotions to them, I realized I had only one choice. I had no choice except to divorce her. I spoke with a couple attorneys, took their advice, and devised my strategy. 18th of July, 2018, I informed my ex-wife that we needed to speak about something when I came home, which she didn't seem to mind. I had led her to believe that I had forgiven her at this time. When I arrived home, I asked her to come down to the basement before she began cooking supper. This isn't working, and your adultery is something I can't cope with, I stated as she sat down. I filed for divorce, and nothing can alter my mind. You are welcome to remain at the home until you find another place to live. But the house was mine before to our marriage, and I want to retain it. That night turned out to be a nightmare, and she had to leave with a buddy. Over the following several months, I received messages from individuals I knew with screen images of her Tinder, Bumble, and FetLife profiles. How many? people she had, and so on. She'd email me and urge me to take her back, saying she'd be the finest wife ever, and she'd beg, plead, and weep. She broke into my residence and pretended to commit suicide by swallowing 5 ibuprofen 200 mg. My best friend's groomsmen were by her, I was best man. We split a year and a day after we married, and out of the kindness of my heart, I offered her a very lovely settlement deal, which she ended up me with. I paid her insurance, loaned her my brand new vehicle, which she destroyed, and paid her phone bill. I offered her 90 days after the divorce to have the automobile financed and out of my name. She tried and failed to pay off her credit cards. She also informed our mutual acquaintances that she was planning to wreck my vehicle before I returned it since she realized she couldn't retain it. So I gave her a free paid-off automobile that had been well maintained in exchange for the new car, which I needed to sell. She denied my offer, and I ended up repossessing the automobile from Tampa, FL on January 4, 2019. 30 days shy of 90 days in the middle of the night. Multiple attorneys and months later, I paid her just short of $4,000 for her pains in order to remove her out of my life totally. I left out a few things, but I'm already at 2 pages and highly doubt anybody has read this far into the account of my marital disaster. On a brighter side, I've met the most lovely lady in the world who means everything to me. She's witty, gorgeous, intellectual, enjoys and notices the small things in life and in a relationship. I wouldn't give her up for anything in the world. I suppose some good might emerge from all the nonsense in life. I still can't believe she put up with all of the ex-drama for the most of it, and she's a trooper for it.